Hello my bookish friends, it's finally winter. It's the time when we like to snuggle up by the fire and listen to the wind and the rain and the elements batter against the window, the branches to tickle and dance across the tiles of the roof, impish skittering leaves to flutter about our front doors, and as if from leaden sieves watch the drifting snow fall down. And amidst all of this, what do we need to do? Cuddle up with a nice hot chocolate and a good book. In this video, I'm going to give you 10 great books to read through this winter. The first book on our list of classic books to read and enjoy at winter time is The Return of the Native by Thomas Hardy. There is nothing more pleasurable than experiencing nature in a book while nature is bleak and rough outside. And Return of the Native opens at the beginning of November as the moors of Wessex, southern England, are cooling down and the bonfires are being lit. It tells a story of Clym Yearbright, who comes back. He's the returning native, and his passion for Eustacia Y, the woman who seems to be so aloof from all others, who lives high up upon a hill and some call a witch. This book delves into the lives of many characters, and one by one you see them begin to self-destruct through their passions and desires. Return of the Native by Thomas Hardy is a beautiful book to sit next to the fire and read. The second book to curl up with, to enrapture your mind with while the rain falls down, is Alone in Berlin by Hans Verlade. This is a truly extraordinary work. It's very psychologically stimulating. It has such atmosphere of the grey streets of Nazi Berlin, the drizzle coming down, the cold, the rations, the need for fuel. And it follows Otto and Anna Quangle, whose son joined Hitler's army but has died in France, and now, hating the Führer, they mount their own small resistance by writing postcards with seditious messages on and leaving them dangerously around Berlin, trying not to be caught as they do so. There's a whole wonderful host of extraordinary characters in here, and you have Escherich, the Gestapo officer, who's trying to find out who's leaving these postcards. If you are a fan of narration, this has got an extraordinary way of doing the narration. It's like a fly on the wall perspective. You see things as they happen. It is an excellent atmospheric book, perfect for winter. Our third book on glorious winter reads is an adventure set in snow by the indescribably enjoyable author Desmond Bagley, and this book is called The Snow Tiger. An avalanche has descended upon a village community. Dr. Robert Scott is hit by it and his car is flung across the river. Liz Peterson lays buried beneath the snow with broken bones. Matthew Houghton has stood and watched in amazement as his house rolls down a hill. This book follows the court inquiry into the avalanche afterwards. The story is told by each member of the community, which shows that the community was beginning to break apart through greed and vice and jealousy and envy, and maybe, just perhaps, the avalanche was not a natural disaster after all. The fourth book on our list is one that is guaranteed to make you chuckle, and it is Jeeves and the Yuletide Spirit by P.G. Wodehouse. Now, the actual book I've got here is Very Good Jeeves, but it's because the story Jeeves and the Yuletide Spirit appears in it. This is a collection of short stories that you can get on Amazon called Jeeves and the Yuletide Spirit, and introduces you to short stories featuring Bertie Wooster and Jeeves, his valet. You meet the inimitable Uckridge in his yellow trench coat. You meet Mr. Mulliner and the Earl of Ickenham, Uncle Fred is his name, and all the high jinks and funny stories that only P.G. Wodehouse can write. P.G. Wodehouse, when you read him, especially as an Englishman, is what you feel you ought to be as an Englishman, that sort of tough buffoon which everyone associates with the English character, and yet no one can match up to like P.G. Wodehouse does. If you've never read him, get this book. If you like short stories, get this book. If you just want to laugh, get this book. Jeeves and the Yuletide Spirit. The fifth book to enter our list of classic winter reads was demanded of me to be inserted here by my wife, who loves this book and likes to read it at this time of year, and it is Louisa May Alcott's Little Women. Beth, Meg, Amy and Jo, the four girls who stay and help their mum. They've fallen on hard times as their dad has gone to the Civil War. We see them trying to make ends meet, making their plans, bickering, fighting, getting great disappointments in love and other areas of their lives, facing illness together, nursing one another, and overall growing as individuals. Of course, it's not all set in winter, but there are some great vivid winter scenes, and it's perfect to just take you on that journey from your armchair while the crackle of logs fills your ears in the background. Next on our winter list of books to snuggle up with is a Charles Dickens book, but it is not A Christmas Carol. It is instead the magnificent Our Mutual Friend. So this book gives you such a sense of place and of atmosphere. London writ large, and it's the grey pall that hangs over its skies, the drizzles that fall upon the chimneys, the mists that bubble up from the Thames, and as Dickens himself writes in this, the white face of winter sluggishly coming through the frozen mist. I mean, that's just brilliantly evocative, isn't it? And the story is a murder mystery, which you don't often associate with Dickens. John Harmon has come home to London to receive a fortune, but he never gets it. His body is fished out of the Thames River, and all London is astir with this man who's been murdered and not yet claimed his riches. And so begins a fantastic tale of characters from all diverse parts of London life doing their bit to try and get in on the wealth. But who did kill John Harmon? Read this, because Dickens is a master of atmosphere, and every puff of wind that you hear against your window while you read this will just sink you further down the line of time into Victorian London. The next book amongst our winter reads is beautiful. It will give you the nostalgia of childhood. It will give you that yearning of being able once again to stand there in your winter coat and your boots and marvel at the white fleece that has numbed the sound of your whole neighbourhood. That indescribable pleasing sound of the crunch of soft snow beneath your wellies, the puffs of smoke above chimney tops, and the red glow of fires within houses that call you inside to warm supper. And that book is George Eliot's Mill on the Floss. We read this in my Patreon group a couple of months back, and it is just magnificent. Eliot captures what it's like to be a child. The way she paints the scenery of rural countryside England, it just touches you very deeply. She knows what it's like to be a child, and our character Maggie Tulliver, she's about 9 years old when the book starts, and she lives at the mill with her family, the Mill on the Floss, and she describes it in winter. Now, although this is a Bildungsroman, which means she grows up over months and years, so not all of it takes place in winter, the atmosphere and the scenery described is just perfect for December reading. The story itself, she loves her father, who loves her deeply, but is a very stubborn man for certain reasons. She has a real love for her older brother, Tom Tulliver, and it recounts how she has to grow and take on the difficulties of life, the setbacks, the disapprobation of family, the calamities that come up in life. How do you deal with love, unrequited love, or love that can never be? There is so much feeling and emotion and pathos in this, and a sheer delight of living is also in this. But those scenes in winter, or on misty mornings, or when the rain comes down, are just delectable pieces of writing, which when you read them in your house next to your fire while the rain is tapping around you, it's just a whole new experience. The eighth book is also a book we read in the Patreon group and is probably the most loved of all the books we read this year. And again, I have it in hardback because Nothing makes you feel more grown up and settled in the world than reading a hardback in wintertime. And this book is The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins, that master plotter of mystery fiction. In this, we start with Walter Hartwright walking through the cold, frigid air of Hampstead Heath as he passes back to his home in London. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning when suddenly, though he thinks he's alone, a cold hand touches him on his shoulder. Turning round, he beholds a woman dressed head to foot in white. She's nervous and skittish, but he agrees to help her to find a coach to take her home. When he puts her in the coach and she leaves, no sooner is that done than another coach with 2 men pull up alongside the road and call to a policeman saying, "Have you seen a woman round here dressed entirely in white?" The policeman says, "No, what's the problem?" And they say, "Why, she has escaped from a mental asylum." And so begins our story, where Walter will head north to work as a tutor to 2 young girls in the county of Cumbria. Great scenery, great use of weather to bring about feeling, a lot of metonymy in this, and how it's all intricately woven around this woman in white with some great bad guys. And like I say, some of the best scenes are just brought into high relief by the windswept weather behind the action. The next 2 books on our list of wonderful winter reads I no longer have on my shelves because I lent them a long time ago to someone and I've forgotten who. But the first one is not necessarily a classic, but it is fantastic. It's Terry Pratchett's The Hogfather, written in 1996. Terry Pratchett writes the Discworld novels, high fantasy, high comedy, with all sorts of casts. He has trolls and orcs and dwarves and humans. He has an assassin's guild. He has the Guild of Thieves in the town of Ankh-Morpork where this is set. But the people of Ankh-Morpork every year wait for the Hogfather to come, who is no other than their version of Santa Claus. And the children look forward to him, but his success depends partly on children believing in him. There is a bureaucracy that is standing for reason that wants to eliminate the Hogfather from children's beliefs, and so they hire out an assassin to take out the Hogfather. That assassin is called Mr. Teatime, and he begins to find a way to take on the Hogfather. Now, when Hogfather goes missing, one of the characters that features a lot in Terry Pratchett's Discworld, Death, thinks that he has to do something and so dresses himself as the Hogfather and tries to give presents to the poor, the lowly and the children. But of course, he doesn't know how it works, and a whole riotous calamity of funny events ensues. The imagination in this book, I would love to tell you so much, but you have to read it. And the whole book is set in winter, of course, because it is the Hogmanay season. It is the Hogfather's season. The final book on the list was written in 1992 by Ellis Peters. You may well have read some of her works. She invented the sleuthing monk Cadfael, and there's a whole series of this Cadfael. He lives in the 12th century, and this book is set in the winter of 1139. There is raging a civil war between King Stephen and Empress Matilda, and Empress Matilda has just laid waste to Worcester. 2 noble children, accompanied by their tutor, a nun called Sister Hilaria, flee, but they never arrive at their destination. No one can go and look for them because it's not safe enough. However, when Brother Cadfael of Shrewsbury Monastery has to go across towards Worcester to help an ailing brother there who is dying, that brother tells him about some people he's heard of who fit the description of the children and the nun. And so Cadfael, being a monk, he goes out into the woods in the thick of snowy winter to find them. He finds the boy, but as he's moving along to find any others, he notices beneath the frozen stream a body. He comes back later with the sheriff, Hugh Beringer, and exhumes that body out of the stream. And lo and behold, it is Sister Hilaria, the nun. But who killed her? Cadfael is brilliant because he doesn't have all of the forensic things that many detective novels rely on. He has to use great ingenuity to work out who did it. If you've never read a Cadfael, I highly recommend it because they're just good mystery stories. And this one is entirely set in the freezing winter of 1139. So those were 10 great winter books, predominantly classics, that you can curl up with by your fireside or in your bed, under your crocheted blanket or in your knitted woolen jumper with your hot chocolate and enjoy. Tell me below, which ones do you like the sound of? And could you do me a real favour? Could you share this video with friends? Just hit the share button beneath this screen and send it to somebody, because there's a good chance that over winter you and a friend may end up reading the same books, and that just adds to the delight of reading during winter. Until the next time, I wish you joy in whatever you decide to read next to your crackling cosy fire.